the word underdog comes from dog fights. It's a term that was used in Britain and also in the Anglo-Saxon world to describe a challenger in a dogfight or in a horse race later on. And it's really the challenger, the character that has not been spotted, that is unknown, but that would create surprise because they will win despite all odds. Generally, people will bet against the underdog. There is a popular song from Sly and the Family Stone, where Sly Stone describes, the song is called Underdog, and he describes the character really well. So it's also used as a metaphor for someone who's, for instance, from a lower class or hasn't studied and has to work harder to create, to fulfill expectations. And so generally, the underdogs are the people who are creative, they will create new things, surprises. And that's really, I relate the term underdogs to the hip-hop, to originally hip-hop culture. In hip-hop, people who originally got to make that culture into something famous were cut out from mainstream culture, and they had to create their own thing. And by recreating their own thing, they had a special power to themselves, and they recreated vital urges from dance, music, art, culture that empowered them to become closer together, to develop personally, to emancipate. Hip-hop has a strong link to the civil rights movement, to popular fights for the cause of the disenfranchised. And so, yeah, I really relate to it. And Underdogs, the show that Underdog City is based on, is really giving references to the civil rights period with musics from the civil rights movement, from artists such as Just Heron or Sly Stone. You can really feel the spirit that the first people who were into those songs, dances, were trying to put forth, and that hip-hop put forward even more and popularized to the point of becoming a universal culture, let's say. And today there is a question about what has hip-hop become. So that's one of the questions that I'm asking in the movie. And the idea is, okay, it comes from underdogs, but today, who is doing hip-hop? Or where are the underdogs? Are we listening to the underdogs? And yeah, that idea of the movie is called Underdog City. So it's a city from a lower class area. But where are those people represented? And are they doing hip-hop? What are they doing? And all those questions you can get some insight into during the film. Hip-hop can be used to mean many different things. What I define it as is the social urban dances of Afro-American origins. So there is, for me, a distinction between social dances and academic dances. Social dances are, of course, traditional dances. They are practiced by people in their regular environments, in families, in cities, in small towns or small villages. And academic dances are only existing because they have some sort of institutional background that helps them be learned and be seen, so schools, theaters. Some dances are present in both in both environments. But for me, urban dances can be social or academic. If they are social, it means that they are practiced by people, for instance, in a neighborhood. They are transmitted by family, they are transmitted by maybe peers, big brothers, elders in the neighborhood. That was the case of hip hop, of urban social dances of Afro-American origin when they started in the US, because there are many of those dances. The breakdance is the most popular one today, maybe, but there are hundreds, because all those urban social dances are really dances that people practice in an area to define their belonging to a special history and geography. So you have the urban social dances of from a certain neighborhood on the East Coast. You have other ones on the West Coast. The musics are different, so the dances will be different. So you have many different dances. In UNDERDOGS, for instance, I use mostly popping and whacking and locking also. But those dances themselves are many dances that have been put together also to create a more academic, in a way, dance. So there is always this layer of social dances that exist, because they are performed, they are just used by people to come together, to have fun. And then as soon as we try to create something more popular that will be shown in theaters or just outside, you have to give names, you have to bring some things together. So something more academic in a way will take form, and it can still be have a social existence in the cultural background. It can be practiced by people without institutions, without theaters, etc., etc. But today we can notice that hip hop has become more academic and less social. All the hip hop dances, all those urban social dances, they are mostly learned and practiced in schools by people who are not from lower class backgrounds, but mostly from middle class or higher class backgrounds. And mostly there are, especially in France, a lot of rich kids who want to work in arts and who will take a hip hop academic school, for instance. So things are switching all the time, and they have been switching for hip hop for a long time in France, for instance. You have also urban social dances of African origin, which are very present today in France, because we have a lot of African diaspora. We have had that diaspora for a long time. And today, as you can maybe see in film, a lot of people from lower class neighborhood practice, we say Afro dances. They are the same as hip hop dances, but they come from African backgrounds, which means they are the same phenomenon of cultural social objects that are practiced first in small environments, and then they become broader when they come to a big city, such as a big African city, and then they move further away, like hip-hop dances have moved from the US when US culture became very hegemonic. There is a big question in culture about cultural appropriation. Should we appropriate other people's culture? Should we not? Under what circumstances? Is it legitimate to do so? Under what circumstances should we be said to come down, maybe? The thing is, I think, my opinion is that culture is about cultural appropriation. That's the definition of culture. I make a distinction between cultural appropriation and cultural reappropriation. I use reappropriation with a kind of negative connotation when things are really reappropriated, for instance, with a deliberate purpose to make money and not to understand what the thing we are appropriating is, what it means. But the boundary is really blurry because, of course, there are many cultures, and many cultures that we know have been already appropriating other smaller cultures forever. So I think the question really is about cosmopolitanism versus multiculturalism. Should we have a cosmopolitan view of culture where everybody influences everybody else, and where we are trying to learn and build from each other's cultures in a respectful manner, if possible? Sometimes we're not aware of what is respectful, what is not respectful from the beginning. You have to learn it. The other option is multiculturalism, where everybody is kept in their boundaries, and if you are from that background, you have to identify with the culture associated with that background. In a way, there is some cultural segregation, if you like, and in that vision, things are more conserved. They are more conservative. They are more trying to stay close to the original thing. But what is the original thing? And when do we say this is the legitimate culture of that, of those people? And also the question is, how do we assign people to a culture? What if you're mixed race? What if you have several backgrounds? What if you have been raised in a background that is other than what you look like? So what are you allowed to identify with, and what are you allowed to speak for? It's a very tricky way of seeing things, and I think it can be misused for many different purposes. So hip-hop is really a cosmopolitan ideal. I'm not saying it's succeeding, but the ideal of hip-hop is the reappropriation of forms, and it was created mostly at the origins by people of Afro-American origin, so of African descent, who themselves were coming from many traditional backgrounds which were different, which were, those people were cut off from their roots, so they had to create something together to speak a new language. They had to create a new, with the small bits of culture that they could keep, they had to create a new common grammar, a new from the need to speak a common language to exist in a geographical area together, even though they all had been cut from their historical cultures or traditional cultures. That's what they did. They needed to do that in order to be together and to live together. And that's the power of hip-hop. Later on, hip-hop also appropriated influences from many other backgrounds, Latin backgrounds, Native American backgrounds, like popular culture, like cartoons, many things. And so all that is, I think, is one of the great powers of hip-hop, that we are what we live, and what's around us feeds us, and we give that a new form, but we use it to express ourselves with others who share some of those things with us, maybe not all of them, but that creates a possibility to communicate together, and that's a really strong ideal. The thing with dance is that dance is learned through empathy. So traditionally, you don't learn to dance in front of a mirror that gives you your own image back. You don't learn dance with TikTok, whatever. You learn dance because you're a kid and everybody's dancing, and you see, and at one moment you decide that you want to do the same, and you move from looking like, to trying to look like, to imitate, to giving your own vibe, your own special thing into what you understand to be the move, the step. So empathy. That's why dance is so powerful and so universal. You don't need to speak a certain language to understand dance. And you don't need to know what a move is named to do it. Sometimes you will be dancing and not even knowing what you are doing comes from. Most of the time, actually, maybe what you're doing, you've been seeing on your grandma or on someone in the street, but you don't remember that, and still it will come out in your body. You will be impregnated. And that's why I say it's empathy. It's so important. It's so important that it's empathy. And you don't have to have had a stamp by a school that tells you that you know the name and the origin of the step to be able to do it. You just, dance is something that it's body expression. It's like singing. Everybody's allowed to dance. And if you dance, you let go and you don't have to, you know what you're doing. It's the contrary of knowing what you're doing. But there is a certain evolution of what dance is, because originally all dances are traditional social dances. And if you look at traditional dances, a lot of them, the older ones, when they've not been used for a certain purpose, like to show a certain story. So there are also some traditional dances which are very narrative and everything. But a lot of older traditional dances, you do one move. You do one move. There is one rhythm and there is one move, and you just decline or repeat. You just work around the move, the energy of the music, and everybody's participating. And so one music, one move. And at the origin, hip-hop dance, there is a hip-hop dance which is called hip-hop freestyle, which is still doing that. It's just the popular moves that are done on popular musics. That's the same idea as traditional dances. So, if, for instance, in more recent practices in clubs, there will be one song and there will be the step that you do on the song. And so that's the same idea. Everybody's doing the step and everybody's communicating and empathizing with everybody else. And that's how you learn, and that's how you do the dance. They're not saying you're a professional dancer or whatever, but you just live the moment. And as soon as you want to make a dance into a more narrative thing, because you have to do a show, you have to present it with a purpose, then maybe you will give names to those steps and you will articulate them and give more rules. But originally, dance is just about empathy and appropriation.